to Edupedia World Videos. My topic for the presentation is secondary growth, vascular cambium, activity of cambium ring, and core cambium. So let's proceed towards our topic, that is secondary growth, and it is the ninth section of the chapter Anatomy of Flowering Plants. In this section of the video, we will discuss about the secondary growth. As we know, students, apical meristem, it involves growth in length, okay, and it is responsible for primary growth. The growth of the root and the stem in length with the help of apical meristem is called as primary growth. Apart from primary growth, most dicot plant, they exhibit an increase in girth, and this increase is called as secondary growth. Okay, so these lateral meristem, they help in improving the girth of a plant, and this is responsible for secondary growth. There are two types of lateral meristem. See, these two lines are representing lateral meristem. So there are two types of lateral meristem. One is vascular cambium and another is cork cambium. Vascular cambium, it produces secondary tissue. Cork cambium, it produces perida. Okay, so secondary growth, it increase in the diameter or the girth, or it increases the breadth of the stem, root or branches by activity of vascular cambium, and cork cambium is called as secondary growth. Secondary growth in dicot stem. As we know, apical meristem are of three types. I have already taught you in detail about it in my previous section of the presentation, so you can refer to that for better understanding. So secondary growth in dicot stem, apical meristem are of three types: protoderm, ground meristem, and procambium. These three are primary meristems. Protoderm, it gives rise to epidermis. Ground meristem, it gives rise to cortex and pith. And procambium, it gives rise to primary xylem and primary phloem. So these are primary tissues as well. Cortex and pith, it forms cork cambium, and primary xylem and primary phloem, they form vascular cambium. Okay, so these two are lateral meristem that help in increasing the girth of a plant body. Cork cambium, in later stages of progression, it gives rise to perida, and vascular cambium in later stages of development process, it gives rise to secondary xylem and secondary phloem. So these two are secondary tissues. Remember, students, dicot stem has conjoined collateral open vascular bundle. Open because it has cambium in it. This cambium is called as intrafascicular cambium. It is represented by this yellow color. This is phloem, which is represented by this blue color, and this pink color is denoting the xylem. Okay, so this is intrafascicular cambium, and this is the medullary ray, which is present between two xylem and two phloem. See, this is one xylem, this is one phloem, this is another phloem, this is one xylem, this is another phloem, and this green is representing the medullary ray. Okay, and this is interfascicular cambium, and this is cambium ring. So this is vascular cambium. Let us consider only a part of a transverse section of the stele. See, this is towards the cortex. This is primary phloem. This is primary xylem. It has protoxylem 2 and metaxylem 2. I have already taught you what metaxylem and what protoxylem is all about. You can refer to that presentation for better understanding. So this is the part of stele, and this is interfascicular cambium. That's why the vascular bundle is of conjoined collateral open type because of the cambium presence, and this is the ground tissue. So remember, cambium ring is formed by the union of intrafascicular cambium and interfascicular cambium. Okay, so because of the union of these two, cambium ring is formed, and it increases the girth of a plant body. Now, activity of cambium ring, let's see. See, this is the transverse section of stele. This is the cambium ring. This is what? This is secondary phloem. This is secondary xylem, and this is primary phloem, and this is primary xylem. So primary xylem and primary phloem, it is pushed towards the margin on the opposite sides. Okay, and secondary xylem and secondary phloem, they are forming from the center. Okay, and it increases the girth. Now we'll talk about the wood, hardwood, sapwood, okay, and cork cambium. What is dendrocronology, students? It is the branch of a biology that deals with the ascertaining the age of a tree by counting the number of annual rings. We'll see what it is. Thus, secondary growth in stele, it results in the formation of secondary xylem and secondary phloem. So due to the addition of these tissue, there is an increase in the girth of a stele. As secondary growth continues to occur, several changes takes place in secondary xylem. Let's see what it is. In much older stem, the secondary xylem, which we call it as wood, it shows two regions, mainly duramen and alburnum. So this is duramen, which is the center portion, and this is alburnum. Okay, so this is a secondary wood that shows annual rings such as duramen and alburnum. Okay. Now what is duramen? Duramen is also known as hardwood. See, this centered one is called as hardwood. It represents the centrally located inactive portion of the secondary xylem. So this is the inactive portion of secondary xylem and it is centrally located. It appears darker in color due to the accumulation of pigments that results from the oxidation of organic compounds like oil and tannin and resins. Okay, and this hardwood, which is also called as duramen, it is incapable of conducting water and it provides only mechanical support to the tree because it is xylem. So don't think that it will help in the conduction of water. No, it is incapable of conducting water and it provides only the mechanical support to the huge plants. It is the part of the secondary xylem that is used as commercial wood. Okay, now we'll talk about the alburnum. It is also called as sapwood. It represents the peripheral active portion of secondary xylem. See, this is the peripheral portion and it has the active portion of secondary xylem, and this portion is still capable of conducting water unlike duramen. So due to its meager mechanical strength and lack of durability, sapwood cannot serve as commercial wood. Okay, so the cells of sapwood, they are living and they are functional. They take part in conduction of water and storage of food. And hardwood consists of dead cells, and during the growth process, the ring of sapwood gradually process. The ring of sapwood gradually convert into hardwood. Please note that. And the living cells of sapwood, it lose their protoplast and water content. The lumen of the xylem vessel get blocked by the ingrowth of parenchyma cells. And please note that hardwood, it is much more stronger and more durable than sapwood. It becomes more resistant to the attack of bacteria and fungi due to the presence of antiseptic oils. Now let's see wood. This is the pith. This is the vascular cambium ring. This is primary xylem. In spring season, larger number of xylem vessels with wider cavities is formed. So this is spring or early wood. In winter season, fewer number of xylem vessels with narrow cavities are formed, which is this. Okay, hence it is called as autumn or late wood. Okay, so this is autumn or late wood. And this forms spring or early wood, which is lighter in color, and this is autumn or late wood, which is darker in color. Okay, density of spring or early wood, it is very low as compared to autumn or late wood, and these are the annual rings, which you can see the concentric rings. These are the annual rings. Okay, in older trees, central regions does not contain water and mineral because it is secondary xylem, so don't expect it to conduct water or mineral. It does not conduct. It is incapable of conducting. It is dark due to the deposition of resin, oils, tannin and aromatic oils. Okay, and this is called as hardwood. And the peripheral region, lighter in color, conducts water and material. It is called as sapwood. So it is lighter in color and it is capable of conducting water and mineral. So this is called as sapwood. Now we'll talk about the cork cambium. See, this is the epidermis. This red is representing hypodermis. These are the cortical cells, and this is phloem, which is being on accumulating, and this is secondary vascular tissue, and thus phallogen or cork cambium is formed. Okay, as the stem continues to grow or increase in girth due to the activity of vascular cambium, the outer cortical and epidermal layers, they get broken, as you can see, and they need to be replaced to provide new protective cell layers. Hence, sooner or later, another meristematic tissue, which we call it as cork cambium or phallogen, it develops, usually in the cortex region. Okay, like this blue is showing that it is cork cambium or phallogen, which usually develops in the cortex region. So phallogen is a couple of layers thick. It is made up of narrow cells. Okay, they are thin walled and they are nearly ovoidal or rectangular in shape, and phallogen, it cuts off cells on both the sides. Okay, so this is phellum or cork. Now what is phellum or cork? See, the phallogen, it cuts off cell on both the sides, and the outer cell differentiate into cork cells. So this is the outer cells, and they are differentiated to form as phellum or cork cells, while the inner cells, they differentiate into secondary cortex or phalloderm. Okay, so this inner layer is called as phalloderm, which is called as secondary cortex, and this phallogen is called as cork cambium, and together these three layers, phellum, phallogen and phalloderm, they are called as periderm. Okay, and this entire portion is called as bark. So bark is a non-technical term that refers to all tissue exterior to the vascular cambium, therefore including secondary phloem. Bark refers to a number of tissue types such as periderm, secondary phloem, and bark that is formed early in the season is called as early or soft bark, and towards the end of the season it is called as hard bark. Okay, so this is bark, phellum plus phallogen plus phalloderm, they together form bark. So bark is a non-technical term that refers to all tissue exterior to vascular cambium. So bark is equals to periderm plus phallogen, secondary phloem. Now we'll talk about the lenticels. Cork cambium, it is impervious to water and air. It helps in the deposition of suberin in their cell walls. And cork cambium, they cut loosely arranged parenchymatous cells, and this forms lens-shaped opening in epidermis, which we call it as lenticels. Okay, so that helps in the gaseous section, and that is called as that also helps in the lenticular transpiration to improve the cooling of the plant body. Secondary growth in dicot root, if you see, apical meristem are of three types. I've already taught you in detail about it. So protoderm, ground meristem, procambium, they are primary meristem. It gives rise to protoderm, give rise to epidermis, ground meristem give rise to cortex, and procambium give rise to pericycle. These three are primary tissue. Pericycle, it give rise to cork cambium and vascular cambium. They are lateral meristems that help in improving the girth of a plant body. Cork cambium give rise to periderm, and vascular cambium give rise to secondary xylem and secondary phloem, that are secondary tissue, and they help in the secondary growth in dicot roots. So remember a TS of dicot root. This is the epipleuma, this is the cortex, this is the endodermis, this is the pericycle, and this is the steel part. These are the conjunctive tissues, which are also called as connective tissue. These are xylem. The smaller dots representing protoxylem, and larger dots, they are representing metaxylem, and these blue colored dots, they are representing phloem, and this is vascular cambium. Okay, in the stellar region, as you can see, this is the pericycle. See, this is the pericycle, and it is showing the stellar, that what's happening in the stellar region. Okay, so this is the pericycle. This is what? This is xylem, protoxylem and metaxylem. See, this is the primary xylem, and this is phloem, primary phloem, and this is the conjunctive tissue, and these yellow dots, they are representing vascular cambium. See, when pericycle disappears, then it forms like this. So this way it is all about. This is the secondary xylem, this is the secondary phloem, and this is the pericycle, primary xylem, primary phloem. Now let's see what happens in extracellular region. This is epiplemma, this is cortex, this is endodermis, this is pericycle, this is the steel part. Steel parts gets enlarged, and all these three layers that gets disintegrated and new layers gets formed like this. Okay, so this is called as phellogen, which is also called as cambium. Another layer forms, which I've already taught you in detail in the transfer section. So this way another layer forms, and it is called as phellum or cork. Then another third layer is formed, but just after the pericycle or adjacent to the pericycle. Now what it is called as? Let's see. It is called as phelloderm. It is also called as secondary cortex. So phellum plus phellogen plus phelloderm, it give rise to periderm. Okay, so this was all about the secondary growth, vascular cambium, activity of cambial ring, cork cambium, and secondary growth in roots. And that was all about the chapter anatomy of flowering plants. Thank you.